I've seen so many players, so many good players using these 6 Pokemon, and the team itself proved it being really well, and Eric obviously proved himself being a really good player piloting this one.
Exactly, 2 really established players who are going to battle it out, trying to get into grand finals tomorrow. Championship Sunday, that's where it all comes down to who is going to take the title Latin America International Champion. But as well, just touching back on Javier's team, he's got some really good things in here that we saw on the stream game earlier when he battled it out in top 8. Just going to touch back on that Togedemaru. I'm not biased or anything, I promise. But you did mention, obviously, that you've got those 2 steel types. And not only does that provide sort of good counters for Xerneas, but also all of those Alolan Guardian Pokemon we see around with the Tapu Fini, Tapu Lele, and Tapu Koko in particular up on the rise means that you're going to be able to take those resisted attacks really well, and particularly with Tapu Koko, the lightning rod ability on that Togedemaru it does allow it to not be affected and to draw in any of those electric type moves as well, helping out the rest of the team. Yeah,
and it got so many really good supportive moves. Like, there's so many moves it can run, starting with Fake Out. Then there comes like Nuzzle, Helping Hand, Super Fang, Encore, Spiky Shield. So many moves. Iron Hat, Sing Zap. There's so much on the ball which this little electric mouse can run. But again, look at the accomplishments. Like, Javier already top cut several international championships. He did a really good run at the World Championships already. So he is one of the most accomplished players we got in Latin America.
Exactly, and one of the things, looking at those lists there, we could see all of the internationals listed on there with some kind of record, top 16 or top 8, but the one we didn't see was LAIC, and that is exactly the tournament. He's here now in top 4, so he's always going to have that on his record, but can he maybe advance it forward into having a finalist or winner position? Eric Rios on your screen now, though, as well, someone who's going to be so determined to get through into those finals, and he definitely has proven that this team can really take him very far in competition.
Yeah, he's definitely one of Europe's finest players at the moment. He's doing so well at every tournament he attends, and he got a lot of like practice with this team already. Like, you can see he top cut Worlds with a pretty different team, and now piloting this team he piloted already before, but then we see like he had a top 4 at a really stacked special event in Paris. He won a special event in Valencia, and of course top cut already the Latin American International Championships.
I think the one word that really sticks out with Eric Rios is consistency. For those of you who aren't part of the European circuit, at all of our events, whether they're regional, special events, Eric Rios is there and doing so well. He often gets the opportunity to come up and stream, be showcased on games, and he just will always be able to demonstrate his team very well, showcase it to perfection, and he will always make his way up into top 8, top 4 positions. And you know, often when you pull his name in those Swiss rounds, you kind of panic a little bit, particularly if you're me.
I can believe that. Eric is one of those players who's around for years.
Yes, exactly.
For so many years, and even though I think most players know their team composition already, there is no one matchup this team cannot win. So I'm really glad that Javier has such a surprising team, because this might be the chance to catch Eric off guard, surprise him with some quick KOs he didn't expect. This is going to be really, really interesting.
Exactly, yes. That team on the left-hand side, Javier's team of the Rayquaza, Lunala, Metagross, Tapu Fini, Togedemaru, and the Mandibuzz is not a team of 6 that I believe Eric will have prepared for, you know, expected to face down in this team preview. But on his team, obviously, you've got the Gengar, Incineroar, Xerneas, Groudon, Landorus, and Tapu Fini. He does still have some big powerhouses there that will be able to deal with a lot of the Pokemon there. The big sort of showdown there for me is going to be that Xerneas, Rayquaza facing off against each other. If you're Javier, you need to make sure that you are preserving your Rayquaza, keeping it in a position where it can start dealing out some big damage to some of the other Pokemon on the field. And you don't want it to take a Moonblast too early and get KO'd.
Yeah, and I really do think that we might see the Mandibuzz coming in. It can really defensively and offensively, it pressures Eric a lot if Javier gets rid of the Xerneas early on, and or pressures it enough with the steel types he got.
Yeah, Mandibuzz being one of those really bulky Pokemon, particularly with the overcoat ability, can really boost itself up here. But most crucially as well, Mandibuzz does allow Javier the option to have that speed control on his side of the field using something like a Tailwind, and that's something that Eric has to make sure he can play around as well. He doesn't really have the utensils on his side to get a Tailwind boosted up there, but it's going to be the big powerhouses. Eric is leading with his restricted Pokemon, Groudon and Xerneas out into the field. It's top 4 who's here for business, and on the left-hand side, Javier going for Lunala and Tapu Fini.
No jokes on this one, no jokes. Eric is starting with his strongest Pokemon up there. No Mega Gengar coming to lock, and Javier leading with Tapu Fini and having Rayquaza in the back, always threatening a potential switch in with the Airlock ability, and we've seen Voltarium C from that Tapu Fini on Javier's side already, so it's threatening the Groudon. I really like that play, like it kind of pushes Groudon to protect or switch out right at the beginning, so Lunala is pretty kind of free to take care of the Xerneas, and we've already seen that this Lunala in particular is a really tricky one.
Exactly, it's holding that Choice Scarf can go for something like a Magic Room, and we've seen previously how well Magic Room can shut down a Xerneas and make it sort of force not to click that Geomancy button because it will have to go for the 2-turn move. Of course, as you've identified there, I love this turn 0, the big offensive pressure that Javier was pulling, but instead Tapu Fini just going to go for a Protect, maybe scouting out what Eric wants to do with his Groudon and being really brave. It's not protecting, it's staying on the field as Lunala jumps up into the air, goes for a Moongeist Beam. This is the move that's going to be locking into with that Choice Scarf going into that Xerneas. Does a huge amount of damage, critical hit as well, as Xerneas goes for the Geomancy here. So Eric playing it so bravely, not worrying about any of the pressure that Javier was going for, goes for Geomancy, not scared of Magic Group, and particularly with now these defenses boosts that it's got up, doesn't have to worry about taking another Moongeist Beam. Is going to be able to do that like a champ going forward, but I want to see what this Groudon's going to do.
Eric is already doing the reads, like this is a really well turn, like going for the Geomancer turn 1 is really huge. He has now the big offensive pressure, even though the Precipice Blades missed on the Lunala not breaking the Shadow Shield, which is really unfortunate. But now the Xerneas pressures the Tapu Fini a lot, which takes away the pressure from the Groudon, which helps him a whole lot. Now Moongeist Beam does less damage to Xerneas and obviously can not take out the Groudon, so it was a really good turn for Eric this turn. Exactly,
that Xerneas being boosted up as well will threaten any Rayquazas wanting to cheekily switch in. Tapu Fini going to take a huge amount of damage from that Moonblast, able to hang on though, so unless it gets followed up by that Groudon, Tapu Fini will be able to do something in this turn. Going to take the Moongeist Beam going into the Groudon on this particular turn. Lunala jumping out of the way once again, sort of tricking us with the animation floating up above, but Tapu Fini is going to have to take that Precipice Blades and will be KO before it's able to do anything for Javier. So losing that big supportive Pokemon for him going forward could be critical, particularly when you've got that Xerneas on the field. If you're Javier, you've got to now bring in a Pokemon that's going to help you play around this. Potentially something like the Togedemaru?
Maybe Eric is not liking the fact that the Shadow Shield from Lunala is still intact. Kind of unfortunate there, but I think he's still in the driver's seat at the moment. Like Groudon is not pressured by Moongeist Beam enough, but Javi got a free switch in to Metagross. If he wants to take care of Xerneas later on, he can now double up into the Groudon and pressure it. If Eric wants to take make predictions about that, he may want to start attacking with the Xerneas and again getting chip on the Lunala and chip on the Metagross. Let's see how they decide on doing it.
Well, Xerneas finally able to break the Shadow Shield on Lunala, going for that Dazzling Gleam. Metagross able to take it, as Lunala does go for another Moongeist Beam. If this is going into the Groudon, it's not going to be enough to pick up the KO, though, without a critical hit. So Metagross will be being left exposed. Is it going to be a critical? No, it's Metagross going for the Hammer Arm, though. This is an interesting move indeed. Going to go straight into that Groudon, will pick up the KO thanks to it being faster there. Going to reduce its speed, though, going forward. This is always a really good move to use in something like a Trick Room environment. That could be a nice little niche to have it in. But I think removing that Groudon, protecting that Metagross, able to go for something like the Bullet Punch even going forward, will be amazing. I was looking previously, what's the Fake Out user? What can he bring in? Thinking about Togedemaru, but Metagross so much better off here. Of course, now that Metagross has Mega Evolved as well, it is going to have to take this Intimidate.
Yeah, I really do like the play by Javier. Knowing that he can take care of the Xerneas later on and doubling into the Groudon. but I really do like the Incineroar switch in from Eric as well. He got the fake up pressure now. The Shadow Shield from Lunala is broken. That's why he wants to preserve it, maybe to lock it into a different move. And Rayquaza is coming in there.
Yeah, Risky Ray jumping in here. Metagross going straight for the Protect though, so potentially Javier thinking that Metagross is going to be the target of a fake out Moonblast or something like that. Incineroar going for the fake out indeed into that Protect, so this could be a safe switch in here for the Rayquaza, but no, Xerneas is able to catch it on the switch in with a Moonblast.
Oh, it hangs on there.
Just hanging on there, so Rayquaza able to jump in, focus sash. Oh, that Rayquaza has just saved the day for itself a little bit there. Its special attack will be dropped, but it does leave Javier free to now go for something like an extreme speed, particularly as the Rayquaza's managed to get in unintimidated. That could be a way to work around the Xerneas. Yeah,
and those are the situations now where you pressure like Xerneas a lot to the point where it wants to protect, and if you get that right, you can double up into the partner Pokemon of that Xerneas, which might be really interesting. If that Rayquaza carries like an Earth Power, and we've seen Hammer Arm from Metagross coming, so we do see the Protect.
Yeah, Protect from Xerneas doesn't want to take something like the Extreme Speed if that's what that Rayquaza's got, but instead Dragon Ascent going to go straight into this Incineroar. Going to obviously reduce the defensive stats on that Rayquaza, but if that Metagross can go for the Hammer Arm, that's going to easily follow up into that Incineroar, and I believe pick up the KO.
Oh yeah, there it is, there it is.
Critical hit as well for a little bit of style points. Obviously Metagross's speed dropping right down, but it's picked up 2 KOs with that move now.
This is like really huge. Javier got the turn right this time around, like Eric protecting the Xerneas, knowing that extreme speed plus a bullet punch would have taken it out. Javier can still go for that later on if he wanted to, so he can preserve the Metagross to take care of the Xerneas. Eric is down to 2 Pokemon, while Javier still got 3 Pokemon. Rayquaza hanging in there. Lunala doesn't want to switch in that hard into a Dazzling Gleam, maybe. But we see the double protect, because we see the double.
Yeah, unfortunately doesn't get it, and that bullet punch going to go straight into that Xerneas, pick up the KO, and it's going to be Tapu Fini against the rest of Javier's team here. Xerneas are applying obviously a lot of pressure, but as you've said that Javier had the utensils in his team to be able to start applying pressure to those fairy type Pokemon. Another Dragon Ascent powerful coming out from Rayquaza, going to do over 50% to Tapu Fini as it goes for an Icy Wind. So again, quite a standard move to have on Tapu Fini at the moment, particularly as that Rayquaza, I mean, it's on 1 HP anyway, it was always going to be KO'd, but notably as well, on Mega Evolve, that could have done some big damage if it had HP remaining, but it now does give Javier the option to bring back in that Lunala, and with the Metagross Lunala combination against Tapu Fini, it's going to be able to take this game 1.
Oh yeah. This is like a really interesting match. Like this time around, it worked out pretty well for Javier. He got the key turns right this time around. I'm really curious if Eric will play as defensively as he did right now in the next game, or if he is going to transition. But first, yeah, we see the forfeit there. It could have gone the other way around if Eric went a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've just thought he went quite defensively, and you're quite right. He changed his style as that game went on. Turn 0 and turn 1, Eric played to perfection.
Yes.
You know, not protecting his Groudon, going for the Geomancy on the Xerneas, and he looked to be in such a strong position. And potentially, if he'd maybe played a little bit more aggressively as he kind of boldly started the game at, he could have been able to start picking up those KOs and not leaving himself pinned down by what Javier was doing with his switches. But unfortunately, going on that defensive just left Javier free to start making his predictions and his calls and starting to go through the team the way that he did. But, you know, Javier is now 1 game away from these grand finals.
Oh, yeah, he is. I really do like how he took care of the Groudon, which threatened the Metagross a lot.
Yes.
And I really do like... well... I doubt we're gonna see the Togedemaru, unfortunately.
That's okay. I can live with that. Because I have to agree with you. I thought the 4 Pokemon that Javier brought were the perfect match for this game. Like you said, having that Metagross, using that Hammer Arm as well to great effect, with even just getting rid of that Incineroar that can be such a tricky Pokemon against this Metagross once it has Mega Evolved as well. And you know, you want to get the stat boost that you get from Mega Evolving as well. You want to have that on the field and don't want to have to deal with then taking the Intimidates. Obviously, when you're un-Mega Evolved as the Metagross, you don't have to worry about them at all thanks to Clear Body. But I think he played so well maneuvering around that. And if I was Eric, I don't know if I'd change up my leads, because you could potentially see something in game 2 where they have the same Pokemon and then you go back to those mind games. But again, Eric, he's so well versed with this team, he could come up with something else, but instead going to stick with what he went with game 1. Xerneas and Groudon as Lunala and Tapu Fini go out for Javier.
Once again, so we got the same situation. Again, the Tapu Fini is on the board, pressuring potential Groudon switch-ins. Lunala is on the board, being able to use Magic Room. But if he does that, Groudon is pretty safe in front of Lunala and Tapu Fini. So this is where Eric can capitalize most of, I guess. Like, if you predict some Magic Room, then the Groudon is pretty much free to stay on the board longer.
Exactly. It's going to come down to Magic Room or Geomancy. What is Eric going to do with the Xerneas? If he predicts the Magic Room, you don't want to go for the Geomancy. You want to start dealing out some damage. And we saw already how much a Moonblast did to both the Lunala and the Tapu Fini. It can do some good work even without the boost. But with that boost, it can be so critical. But you don't want to get trapped into that turn 2 Geomancy, particularly if Tapu Fini has got some extra tricks up its sleeve. We've already seen that it's quite a quirky one there for Javier. Lunala, however, just going to go for what it did in game 1. Moongeist Beam up in the air, going to target down into the Groudon this time. Going to deal a good chunk of damage as Xerneas does go for the Moonblast, so maybe thinking that this was the Magic Room turn. I'm going to break that Shadow Shield on Lunala, something that Eric did struggle to do in the previous game as well. That could have worked against him a little bit. And Groudon this time as well, being more accurate with those Precipice Blades. Lunala's not escaping this time.
So this time around it worked out. It worked out pretty well for Eric. He knew that there might be Magic Room, but if it's coming, I capitalize a lot. So he just straight up went on the offensive, going for the strong ground type attacks and the strong Moonblast. That Haze is interesting. It covered the Geomancy option, as well as bringing Lunala back to its normal special attack stat.
Yeah, exactly. Revealing that Haze as well, preparing yourself in case Geomancy did go off there. Lunala, of course, locked into that Moongeist Beam, now going to jump right back up into the sky. Going into that Xerneas this time, Groudon protecting, but Javier calling that protect and going into the other target. Xerneas going to take a good chunk of damage, not quite 50% here, and is now going for that Geomancy. Now, does Javier predict that's going to happen and go for Haze again?
If he wants to cover the Geomancy, he has to go for Haze, I guess, but because if he just goes for Moonblast, it will not be enough to KO the Xerneas. So if he wants to cover that, he goes for Haze once again, but I'm curious. Yeah, there we see it.
I mean, Eric, knowing that that is a choice scarf, Lunala locked into Moongeist Beam, doesn't have to fear Magic Room this turn as well, so the Geomancy did look kind of safe. But Javier going, no, if that's what you're going to go for, I'm going to also haze you away here. So potentially Eric trying to play it, like we were saying previously, trying to play it a little bit more aggressively in this game. Maybe thinking that Javier wouldn't expect him to do it, as it was such a kind of obvious play with the Magic Room not going to be in effect. Groudon, however, going to leave the field, protected last turn, going to go back to the Pokeball as Eric now brings in the Incineroar on this turn, going to fire off Intimidate, so aren't going to be valid. But crucially, I think having that fake out on the Tapu Fini going forward.
Yeah, I think that is really clever, preserving the Groudon, because if Javier once again brought the Metagross, showing the Hammer Arm, this indicates that there is no Stomping Tantrum on the Metagross, so that Groudon is one way to win the game, and he starts chipping the Pokemon and even taking KOs on the Lunala in this time with the Xerneas, unboosted Xerneas, but we do see
oh, I love seeing the C move here. It's going to be Waterium C at Tapu Fini. Obviously, the Hydro Vortex going to be a big dealing water type move here. And not something we've seen on Tapu Fini for a while. It had a rise in previous years, but it's the perfect way to take down this Incineroar.
Oh, this Javier catch Eric pretty well here. He expected the Groudon to switch out. He covered that slot perfectly, knowing that the Xerneas is not a big threat, and he wanted to get rid of the Incineroar, so his Metagross is safe from getting intimidated and being his win condition maybe once again against the Xerneas. And the Rayquaza now pressures the potential Groudon coming in. That's why Eric is sending in the Gengar instead. So really, really cleverly played on both sides of the field there.
Exactly. I think you're quite right there, Sevi. He knew he had to get rid of that Incineroar so that his Metagross could have a better time later on. fingers crossed that is his 4th and final Pokemon in the back there. Rayquaza, of course, joining onto the field can apply a good amount of pressure with those Dragon Ascents again. Something that Gengar being, it's a great special offensive Pokemon, but it doesn't have the best defenses. And if it is obviously the Mega variant, it's not going to have something like a Focus Sash and a Dragon Ascent. It's going to deal a huge amount of damage back to it. Xerneas, of course, does have to worry about that as well, particularly as Rayquaza has the Focus Sash. So if you want to remove it from the field, if you're Eric, you're going to have to find a way to double into it.
Yeah, I really like where Eric is going there. He sends in Gengar, and if he knows that Javier leaves the Xerneas pretty much alone, the Xerneas is always free to just starting attacking and taking the second knockout there by taking out the Tapu Fini, and now we have a Mega Gengar and Xerneas, and everybody who knows that team may know the special move that Mega Gengar runs.
Exactly, particularly as Eric has now kind of pinned down Javier to his last 2 Pokemon. If that Gengar is running something like a Perish Song, it's going to be able to obviously sing its little song and then allow Eric to have the maneuverability to switch out his Pokemon so that they won't be KO'd after the 3 turns. Whereas the Metagross and Rayquaza on Javier's side are going to have to stay on the field. They're going to have to find a way to KO Eric's Pokemon before the Perish Song expires on their side of the field. Otherwise, it is going to be the game going straight to Eric. So this Gengar is one to watch at the moment, but it does have to be able to get that move off and able to keep his team alive while the Metagross and Rayquaza are obviously fighting it out with the battle here.
Well, Rayquaza and Metagross still pressure all Pokemon on Eric's side on the field really hard. So if Javier manages to get 1 knockout, then Eric has to, if he wins that road, if he goes that road, no, he doesn't. He had to play like really cautious to not get knocked out in return, but that's why Gengar straight goes for the Shadow Ball into the Rayquaza.
Yeah, I actually really like this play here from Eric, just going straight on the offensive. Doesn't have to worry about any switching. The Iron Head picking up the clean KO against that Xerneas and getting the Focus Sash broken on the Rayquaza as well is going to be critical going forward. The Dragon Ascent, though, coming out, not actually picking up the KO against that Gengar, able to hang on a little bit here as the Misty Terrain, of course, leaves the field. But again, you still have to worry now about something like a Bullet Punch from that Metagross going into that Gengar. It is not the most defensive Pokemon. And then, of course, Groudon here on the field as well, going to bring the Sunshine back into the action.
We still got Airlock from the Rayquaza, so we get the Sunny animation, but it doesn't even matter that much as long as Rayquaza is on the field. We have seen that Rayquaza running Earth Power, so Javier still has the offensive pressure on the board, and if he gets the protects correct, he could seal it. But on the other hand, there are still options for Eric. We've seen Shadow Ball threatening the Metagross a lot. Of course, Groudon threatening the Metagross a lot. So that Rayquaza has to take up both Pokemon to let Metagross shine, kinda.
Yeah, Bullet Punch coming out here from the Metagross into the Gengar. Gonna nicely pick up the KO there against Gengar. Now Rayquaza sometimes has access to something like Waterfall, but actually it's gonna be Surf from this mixed variant Rayquaza. Oh, this is a move I have not seen in such a long time. Yes, it hits your partner Pokemon, but Metagross can take that. Groudon, ×4 weak, 2 water-type moves removed from the field in such commanding fashion. Oh, that was a fantastic way to close out that game.
Yeah. Oh.
Javier Valdes advances to finals.
Congratulations. This was really, really, really well played from both players. Javier taking it. Oh, I love those games, Lou. I really love those games. You know,
a Pokemon we talked about a lot before we jumped into this was Rayquaza. We kind of highlighted it earlier.
Yeah.
And I think we've just seen a Rayquaza that we did not discuss. You know, we talked about all the different variants. And the thing I loved about this Pokemon having that kind of the Dragon Ascent on there, being quite offensive pressure, such an iconic move for Rayquaza, but having Surf on there as well, able to just pick up that KO. You're not worried about Intimidates at that stage either. You can just use that airlock ability and go through into those opposing Groudons. And even if you're against something like Incineroar, that would help out as well. But I just... Oh, that was such an amazing way to close out that game, and Javier masterfully played around the solid consistency of Eric Rios.
And I want to highlight the friendly hand clap we had there.
Yes.
So Eric isn't disappointed at all. He's like happy for what he accomplished here at the Latin American International Championships, and Javier advancing to the finals with a really cool team. looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too. And of course, if you're Eric, huge commiserations. But as you were just saying there as well, you know, he played really well. It wasn't like it was an unclean game. It just came down to the matchup there and playing against the player. And I think Eric, can commend very strongly Javier's play and his team. And, you know, I'm sure Eric will go back and advancing into the next format as we advance into, you know, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield on the Switch. He'll come up with some more creative things. So definitely keep your eye out for Eric Rios and keep an eye on Javier Valdes advancing into the finals for tomorrow.
Yeah. If we want to discuss the team like a little bit, like I really enjoyed how Javier brought Rayquaza and another Mega Pokemon, which is something that some teams don't prepare for that much, which he capitalized on really well, having especially the Focus Sash because of the not being able to take that many attacks as Mega Rayquaza is a really nice addition. We have seen that Rayquaza switching and taking one attack and then immediate offensive pressure on the board.
Exactly, like you said, it has that Focus Sash. If it can't Mega Evolve, it's still got some durability. And having those kind of dual Mega Evolution Pokemon is something that I only really remember from sort of 2016, 15 kind of time, where maybe you'd have your Mega Kangaskhan, and I remember Mega Gardevoir as well was quite a big popular choice. And you often would have kind of two versions of your team and two dual ways you could run it. And this just allowed Javier that same maneuverability with his Rayquaza. It's such a big offensive pressure. You know, it's one of your restricted. You want to be able to use it in many situations. It's not going to be a niche pick as a restricted. And he was just able to masterfully do that, and it helped support all the different Pokemon as well. Just a fantastic synergy throughout all of his team, and I think that's something that he's really showcased well across both of his stream games today, how versatile this team can be.
And we still got one stream game from Javier, but first we're going to have an interview with Javier.
And I'm here on stage with the winner of our top 4 match, Javier. First of all, congratulations. What an incredible set. How did it feel to play an experienced player like Eric Rios in such a big game?
Yeah, it was a really hard matchup. Eric is a really good player, and in Ultra Series he got caught in all the major events he's played, so he's a really good player in Ultra Series. So I was a little scared, to be honest, but well, I have a kind of game plan and try to do the best way I can, and happy for me, give me the results to make it. Yeah, I'm in finals. It is so excited. I'm so happy for all the people that support me along this season. It was a rough season, and I'm really enjoying the moment. So I'm so happy right now.
Oh yeah. Glad to hear that. Really, you did an amazing job here in the 2 games that you were playing on stream. So part of your strategy really involved some of these water type attacks that are sometimes people are not expecting them that much. So you had the Hydro Vortex on the Tapu Fini, and then of course in the final game the Surf on the Rayquaza. So both times I think you surprised him a little bit. How did that feel, and how is that involved in your strategy?
Yeah, well, the play was I take the risk to Hydro Vortex in Sun, hope to Groudon to switch in Incineroar, and for me was the right call, right? And yeah, Surf Quasar, he's my partner for all the season. It's for me one of the best way to stop Groudon, if not it's the best way. But for me it was a really excellent choice along all the season. Berlin, Nike, and now here. So happy that Quasar finally gets this moment in the stream with Surf.
Yeah, definitely something that everyone at home was also excited about. So one more question about your team. We've been seeing you a lot using Choice Scarf Xerneas through the Ultra Series. Now you're switching it up with Lunala. Do you think that was maybe the one key piece that really helped you achieve this big success here?
Yeah, absolutely. Xerneas Scarf is really good too, but if people are really in the game, they can notice if this is a scarf or not. So sometimes it was a 50-50. I assumed that my opponent didn't know that I was a scarf. But with Lunala, I don't have that mind game, because when I attack with Lunala, I can show the scarf. And with all this side spam, and well, Mega Gengar, and well, another Lunalas, and well, Ultra Necrozma, it's really good to move first. So yeah, it was a really good call, Lunala.
So in the top 4 game that is coming up now, we have James against Juan. Both of them are using a team with Ultra Necrozma and Tapu Lele. How do you rate your matchup against that, and who would you prefer to play against in the finals?
Oh, if I have to choose, my friend Juan, of course, and finally to won an internet for Latin people. We didn't get that title, so it will be nice. And yeah, and absolutely prefer more Juan than James. James is a really good player too, with more experience, top 4 world this year, so it's a really huge opponent. So really prefer Juan.
Well, yeah.